All right. Hello.
How are
Hey,
you?
Karina. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all, yeah, just chilling out here in the north part of China.
Okay. What's your name and
Shenzhen.
oh, Shenzhen. What's your name and what do
Mm.
you do?
My Chinese name is Qiu Xiyang, but everybody calls me Q, so it's just one single letter,
Okay,
Q.
that's easy to remember.
Yeah, yeah. I've been using that for a long, long time. Yeah, that's kind of like my professional name.
Nice. It's
Everybody just call me Q 老师, Q 老师,
oh,
Q 老
yeah,
师.
Q 老师. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And my profession, I'm an ESL teacher, and I am currently employed by Xingdongfang. You know Xingdongfang, right?
Yes.
It's a yeah, a big, really big one. But at the same time, I'm also running this independent program. It's a reading club. Uh, it's rather small right now, but I really enjoy the work. So I'm working on both sides.
Okay. The reading club sounds very interesting. I want to ask you more about that. But first, um, think I just want to ask about your learning background, being a student. What was that like? Did you have a good experience when you were younger, studying and learning?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Well, I wasn't really I wasn't a straight A student. Um, but I was straight A student when it comes to English. I was always am. Um, well, I went to the good schools. Most of the schools I went to, actually all the schools I went to, they're not bad. Top school in primary in town, top school in middle school, top high school in town. I always went to the good schools because my father. Okay, I'm not trying to brag or boast, but my father used to work in the education bureau, so it's kind of like one of the benefits for the staff that are working for the government, particularly in the educational sector. So I was given the good opportunities. And then after 高考, you know 高考,
I do.
at yeah, I came to Shenzhen. That's it's 4 hours of ride between my hometown and Shenzhen. So I came here for studying English, and those 4 years in college was my happiest time,
Oh.
happiest part of my life. Well, I'm not saying that I'm not living in a happy life right now, but I had a lot of time. I had a lot of joy and fun um, learning English because I was able to choose the subjects I like, and I was allowed to flunk in the subjects that I didn't like. You know,
Really?
yeah, like those grammar class, the but business English, news English, taught by Chinese professors. Those subjects were just really boring. I
Okay.
didn't see why I had to learn those stuff because I knew all of them already. And the part I didn't know, they were not fun. So yeah, I was good in English, like really good.
But where did that
Um,
come from? Because you said when you were at school, you weren't really interested in other subjects. You were interested in English. But where did it come from? Was it a teacher? Was it a TV program? Or how were you introduced to this language?
very, very good, excellent question. I know you're studying SLA, and I myself uh in this subject too. So I think that question is really cool. Um, I don't know. I think um I remember being really interested in the pop culture when I was really young. When everybody else was listening to Chinese pop song, I was listening to English pop song, and I was the only person who's doing that at the time. And prior to that, before that, um, I was interested in sound. I
In
was, ever since sound,
oh,
audio,
sound. Yes.
yeah, sound. Because now I'm a teacher, I can see the connection between sound and English. Because English is a language of sound, right? not like Chinese. Chinese is a language of shape, but English is something that you sound a lot. I remember being really young and lying in the bed and listen to all those music from the radio, and I remember those moments pretty clearly. And later, I went to school and I realized English was very much like music to me. Plus, it was a tool to get to those really cool and interesting culture, to the the world, the bigger world.
Okay.
So those were my, how do you put that? Yeah, those were my moments
Okay,
when I
great.
was like, I like English more than other subjects.
Okay. So fast forward to university, you said there were some subjects that you just didn't like. News English, business English. What didn't you like about them? What was unappealing?
Teachers, definitely teachers. Yeah,
Okay.
those people, teachers that were doing business English, news English, grammar English were not interesting teacher, and then they were all men, boring, boring middle-aged men, lecturing all the time.
Mm,
There was no interaction between teacher and student.
mm.
There was no interesting topic, no nothing.
Okay.
So I wasn't good at those things.
But
But
isn't that
um,
the
the,
traditional style? Isn't that the traditional style that in at universities or at least at Chinese universities?
yeah, but compare with the classes that were taught by Westerners, those boring subjects, they have really large classrooms. But I remember going to my cultural class, my writing class, my other classes that were taught by American teachers. Those were smaller classroom, and teachers were fun and interesting. And I didn't meet a lot of foreigners at the time, so I was really interested in their life and the way they talk, the way they walk, the way they conducted the classroom. So it's if I had to you know pinpoint one particular element that inspires students to learn something, it has to be people.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
definitely. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. And moving on then, now
Mm,
to, well, actually, you were teaching before the reading club, you began to
mm,
teach. Of course, you
yeah.
had some experience of some good teachers, you had some experience of some bad teachers. What kind of teacher are you?
What kind of teacher am I? Well, I answered that question before. You know, I always tell the students that I'm first a good person,
Hmm.
then I'm a good teacher.
Hmm.
So, I have students who walked up to me and say, "Oh, Q, I really like you," or "I really like the way teach, blah blah blah." This is how I respond to them. They like me because I'm a good person. I'm nice and sweet and um, caring. Before I am good professionally. So that makes a good teacher, good personality. And but about teaching itself, I wasn't good at teaching at all. I mean, my boss was not happy with me. Okay, my first boss, the boss who hired me in first place, he didn't like the way I gave class. Uh, but that's like 7 or 8 years ago. Um, he was he was good at lecturing, and people were interested in lecture like classes, and I wasn't good at lecturing at all. I liked talking, I liked making conversation, and I did not like, and I wasn't good at standing up on the stage and be like a speaker, be really rhetoric and eloquent, good at speaking. I wasn't like that. So in the beginning of my teaching years, I wasn't good at all. I was also shy. It wasn't until 5 years ago, yeah, 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, when another boss came along, and she immediately saw that I was good in, good in particular part of teaching. I was good at making interaction, um, creating nice and cool classroom. I was good with small group of students, not large one. So my boss, the second boss, Diana, she began to introduce me to the subjects of SLA and also, teaching, actual teaching, um, the teaching that we're all familiar with, not the Chinese style teaching. And that's why I was able to know all these names, all these labels, um, that I already knew before, but I didn't know until I came along and read those theory and books that, oh, this is called teaching approach, oh, that is called teaching objective and all that stuff.
Sure.
So about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I realized that um, I began to know what teaching was really like.
I see. So, at university, did you have some practice, or did you what was your training like? Did you have any practice in teaching? Was there any practical
Oh,
component in? No.
zero. I was
Okay.
trained teacher.
Okay.
It was English major
I
and
see.
always studying the language itself.
I see. And
Yeah.
so, are you saying that, okay, one of your inspirations, of course, were the teachers, some of the teachers that you had at university, and otherwise you just read? Did you just get your information from books about different teaching styles and methodologies?
You mean when I was a student or when I was a teacher?
When you were a teacher, because when you said, you were when you were hired, but you perhaps you weren't quite sure of what you were doing, and you told me that you started to read about theories and so on. Did you
Uh-huh.
so did you find your information from books, from other
Yeah.
teachers, from online, or?
Yeah. Books. TKT. Where's that book? There. One sec.
No problem.
I grabbed the books. Hang on. Back. That and that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is the two of the books. I don't remember others. Do you want to take another look?
so the TKT course, okay, that's with Cambridge,
Yeah.
and I saw,
And another one.
what is that? Oh, 语言教学实用
Hmm.
技巧, is that it?
Yeah, there are practical techniques for language teaching written by Michael Lewis and Jimmy Hill.
Okay, great.
Here. Can you see
Oh
it?
yes, got it. Very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so these are the books.
I see.
Okay. Um, and about, I think I wrote in the email in 2012, at the end of 2012, I was sent by the HQ to the Cambridge University Press to study this series of course.
Right.
Um, yeah, I have this book. Here. Oh, hang on.
Ah, yeah, I've heard of Touchstone. Is it
Yeah,
a blended learning course? Yeah.
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 And I met the authors,
Oh, really?
Michael, yeah,
Cool.
Michael McCarthy, and his wife, and also another writer,
Ah.
Jean McCartan, yeah, McCartan, Michael McCarthy and Jim. They are lovely, lovely people.
And what did you learn from them?
Yeah.
What did you take away from this?
Okay. There are two parts for the whole training section. One is with the authors. So we learned about the philosophy of the book.
Okay.
We learned about how they built the system, how they created this theory, and that's one part. Not practical teaching. Trained by, we were trained. We were giving training sessions by the teachers, the trainers, in the Cambridge University Press, and I these two parts are mind blowing to me. They were really wonderful. I The author, he's such a brilliant guy. I mean, he practically had answers to every questions we asked. He's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And and he's a person, by the way. He's a good person.
I see.
So yeah, I don't like not the kind of person who just admire people who's good professionally. I have to see them as a person first
Sure.
before I can see they are great in the profession. So that's the first part. The second part was the training session. So there were three or four trainers who gave us training sessions. It's all very practical. They talk about um, motivation. They talk about consolidation. They talk about all those practical ideas and tools, and they also told us how to use those methods in a blended class. Yeah, so wonderful time. I learned a lot,
Okay.
and I had to say I was the person who learned the most in that trip because there were 17 people in the team, 17 people who were sent from the HQ, a headquarter in the Beijing. Almost two-thirds of them were on the management layer. They are more managers than
I
teachers,
see.
and and then one-third all the teachers. And I can tell you that I was the one that learned a lot. Like, yeah, but it's a shame that after the trip, not the trip, after that trip, a lot of things happened on the management layer, and what I learned in the trip didn't get to share with
I
the other
see.
teachers. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a shame.
Okay. Well, moving on to uh, your latest or your current project, which
Yes,
is
the reading club.
a reading club. So, how did you go from teaching um, to kind of organizing and being part of a reading club?
hmm Well, um, remember I said earlier that I was confused in the first couple of years of my teaching life. I was so confused. I didn't know what was the right thing to do to be a teacher, and I still have that feeling. I think that's because um, I do not believe in short-term language training. I hope this does not offend anybody here, but just it, like I don't believe in training. I believe in education. I believe something that's long term, not short term. Um, I don't like keep telling students that I'm sorry, you will not experience any significant improvement in 2 months. It's just not gonna happen. And I hate, yeah, they keep telling me that they want to improve, but I know for sure that what I'm doing for them is not gonna help them in just 2 months of time. And 2 months or 3 months is the um normal, the regular class length, right? Is
Yeah,
that the class length?
I see.
Yeah, so for all the training school, it's all like that, and so it didn't feel right. So I woke up one morning, realized that this is just wrong. I need to do something new.
Yeah.
I didn't do something over, and I bet I get paid a lot for doing something that I don't believe in. It's just wrong. So about 2 years back, I was given the opportunity to join that experiment. So the experiment is to um, basically just to help the kids read. Um, it's not like helping. Well, it goes like this. We have the parents first. We told the parents that we believe in reading. We think reading can improve your English in just about every way, your vocabulary, your grammar, your everything. So we just have to put your kids in the program with us and see how it goes, how it turns out in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
So a lot of were my friends of my friends, so they agreed. So we had kids ranging 5 year old, 10 year old, 12 year old, 15 year old. So quite a lot of them. Not quite, like 20 or 30 of them. So for the older kids, the I personally was working with four 12 year old, 12 year or 11 year or something like that. Yes, 2 years ago. So I assigned them books to read. I gave them books like at first they were very simple book like The Air and the Tortoise, The Country Mice and the City Mice. Have you ever heard of those stories?
The hare and the
Uh,
tortoise, yes. Country mice and
yes,
city mice, not so sure.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
They only knew a thousand less than 1,000 English words at the time, very very basic, and they were uh, grade six, sixth graders. So I worked with sixth graders, four of them. So they read Air and Tortoise, they listen to it, and they read the text, and they do it 30 minutes a day. And then they come back on the weekends, and I speak to them or they ask me questions about the story. We just had conversations about the story. That's it. So no grammar, no vocabulary, no nothing. So just play games about the story, talk about the story, ask questions related to the story, and that's it. So we kept doing that, and I kept giving them stories and story. Of course, the story in the beginning they were easy, but over time it got difficult. So after 3 months, they began to understand English much better than they did 3 years before, 3 months before. They are now, so 2 years later. Now they knew. I think there's like the weakest one knows 2,500 words at least. The strongest one knows 6,000 words, and they have no trouble communicating in English. So,
Fascinating.
and they are not shy. They are not shy. They are outgoing. They are confident,
I
and they
see.
think more. So this is the result of reading, of the experiment, and the result. And this does not happen to my group of students. It happens to every group of the student, as long as they listen or read 30 minutes a day under the supervision of the parents or reminded by the parents. As long as they do it 30 minutes a day, they are able to improve significantly. Just give them 3 months of time and it'll change.
Wow, I have a few questions for you. That
Yeah.
sounds great. So how do you select your books, for example?
Oh, at first we didn't have a lot of choice. We only just like we chose the book by like it felt right, so we chose that book by feeling or just very vaguely. We felt like okay, this might be the right book. But over time, we began to have knowledge about the books
Yes.
and knowledge about the students. We were able to group the books, and we for lower intermediate students we use level reader. For intermediate or upper intermediate, we use fictions, real books, fictions. But for 5-year-old, 6-year-old, we use picture books.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, picture books. Those picture books, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Also, yeah, also storybook with very vivid pictures and
Sure.
just the pages and yeah.
Okay.
And right now, our workshop, we believe that we're doing something that lasts 12 years. So for 12 years, we break down those 12 years to four parts, four stages. Stage one, age 5 or 6 to age 8. So they will read with us for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And on this stage, they read picture books, they sing songs, they dance, they draw picture, all that. The second stage, age 9 to 12, they read level readers. And we use Black Cat. Black Cat is a series of level readers.
Okay. Yes.
Uh, Stage three, we give them fictions like Harry Potter.
Yep.
Yeah, um, we have loads of books like that. And the last one, those SAT books
Okay.
like Catch Fire, Animal Farm,
Wow.
um, yeah, The Great Gatsby.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah. You know, because we want the students to think and to feel, not just to learn the language itself. Yeah, English is only a tool. Like, that's something I I believed in when I was young, and I still believe. When I was in college, I I learned better than my peers, and the only reason that I learned better than my peers was that I use English as a tool to explore the world. So whenever I had questions about something, I use Wikipedia. I had to read about that term in order to find out what that is, right? So English was just something I picked up along the way. It wasn't a subject for me. It was just a tool that I had to use to get what I wanted. So I improved. So we want to use that method on the kids that we're working with now.
Great.
Mm.
I know in the China context, assessment testing is
Yeah.
quite important. Do you, how do you measure your improvement? Do you measure improvement? Are there any tests in
For
your
my
reading?
improvement.
No, no, in the reading club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do I? Yes. Parents, Chinese parents, they know nothing about English. They don't know what improvement is when it comes to English.
Mhm.
They believe that if you can speak English or you can speak something that sounds remotely like English, you're improved. So, right?
Mhm.
And if your score looks great in school and your English is good, so we cannot, reason with the parents and tell them what we believe should be the right of learning English. So how do we measure or how do we convince the parents? We use basically two things. One, the test in their school. Second, vocabulary test. There are some tools on the website, on the internet that test a person's English vocab, right?
Okay.
Vocabulary capacity, yes. So we can see the improvement. We test the students once every month, or once in 2 months, so we can see the improvement. And we also monitor their the tests in school. So my kids, they don't need to worry about the English class at all because they're all A students.
Mhm.
You know, they don't need to struggle with English. Three of the four kids that I've been working with, they are all number one in English tests, almost in all the English tests. The last one, the fourth one, is not doing as good. The only reason is because he quit for 1 year, quit from the program. He had to, he was in a swimming team. He couldn't manage with all this
I
talent,
see.
so he quit for. That's why he's the weakest one. But the other three, they are all number one in the school.
That's good to
They're
hear.
actually getting one of them. They're especially boy. The boy is getting too proud of his English ability. Doesn't He's not paying a lot of attention in class.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Telling so that they're good with English. They don't need to worry about it.
Okay.
So two things: vocabulary test and
Mhm.
tests. So
Okay.
we can.
So we've spoken a little bit about parents and
Yeah.
what they think about this project. And actually, I'm working on my own little project,
Yeah.
trying to get parents involved. I'm not sure whether it's
Hmm.
going to be something that they have to do, or maybe it's going to be
Hmm.
something that some information that they receive. In your experience, I mean, how do you view parental involvement? Do you see
Hmm.
Chinese parents as very involved, as uninvolved? Could they be more involved? What do you in the learning process, or
Hmm.
the kind of the if we're talking about languages, the language learning kind of journey? Um, could parents be more involved in that?
Parents, in all the cases I've seen, parents are crucial. If the parents care, their kids learn better. That's just basically put, if they care, their kids learn better. So how to make the parents care is very critical in your little project, right? Um, well, I have seen that video that you post. It was a research done by a Chinese person, someone that whose family is Liu or Lu or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, it might be. determined by their education background.
Sure.
That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if if they are, if they all the parents, both the parents hold a master degree or PhD, they want to care, put a lot of money and involvement in the kids' English learning. That's number one, education background. Number two is peer pressure. From what I've observed, peer pressure. If my friend, her kid is taking English class, then I want to put my kid in the same English class.
Yeah.
So this peer pressure is existing among parents as well,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's two of the biggest determiner that allow the parents to care about how much they want to be involved in kids' English study. Um, in my reading program, the kids don't know the benefit of reading, so I cannot convince the kids that come to my class, come to my join my reading program, and you're going to improve. They don't know nothing about that. No, they
Sure.
know nothing. The parents know, particularly the parents who want to send their kids abroad in the future. So let's say parents of a 15-year-old. A 15-year is probably eighth grader, 7, 8, 9, 10th grader, 初一, right? Senior one,
Mm-hmm.
15,
Okay.
15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So parents are thinking 2 years later they want to send their kid abroad. So they're gonna have to take, a few English tests like TOEFL, IELTS, or SAT, and all that. Okay, these are really difficult tests. These are not like Gaokao. For a student to pass the English test in Gaokao, the student only needs to know 3,500 words. But to pass or to get a better score with the TOEFL, 7,000 words at least. So that's a huge, gap. So we need to convince the parents that if they stay in the same class in the public school, their English is not gonna improve. Not they're gonna have to struggle with English when they have to take the test, the TOEFL test. But reading can help. You can start now, give it 2 years time, read just 30 minutes or 20 minutes a day, and naturally the vocabulary will increase. And by the time the kids have to attend the test or attend training classes that help them prepare for the test, the kid wouldn't struggle anymore. So that's how we convince the parents to bring them into this program. But also kind of have a oral, unofficial contract with them. We tell them that if your kid is not reading 30 minutes a day, if that it's your reason that he's not going to improve in the future. So parents' improvement is very, very involvement is critical in this kind of project.
Yeah, I see.
Um, yeah, and a lot of parents in China, the rich of the richest one, the rich, they want to pay to solve problems.
Mm.
They believe that teacher has the money or the institution has the money, and they're gonna take good care of all the problems, including the kids' learning problems. So they just have to pay you, and everything will be solved. We don't work with parents like that.
Mm-hmm.
We make it very clear in the beginning when we are still negotiating all the details. We tell them, don't do that. We are not responsible for your kids' improvement. You and your kids are responsible for the improvement. If you cannot supervise your kids or encourage your kid to read 30 minutes a day or listen and read 30 minutes a day, then don't come here. We can't help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we kind of narrow down the group of parents that we want to work with.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I think it's important that everybody understands their responsibilities, that there
Yeah,
are perhaps three groups represented: the teacher and the school, the student and the parents, and it's like it's a collaboration of efforts. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Thinking about these graded readers or reading, because I have some graded readers for Chinese. Um, any plans to do a Chinese version? I would like to join the Chinese version of your reading club.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Like it kind of stopped.
I'm going to try again. You were talking about graded readers. You were saying level readers.
Yeah,
And that reminds me that I have some for learning Chinese.
for yourself, right?
Yeah, for myself. So I'm asking you, will you do a Chinese version for me so that I can join your reading club?
Well, it's my Chinese is not good. You have to know. Uh, in my senior in my high school, when I was eighth, when I was in grade eight, nine, no, not grade seven. Oh, my math is messing up. The last 3 years of my high school, I was bad in literature class. I was bad in Chinese. I was the bottom 50 among 600 people. So ask me to do a Chinese class for you. It's going to be hard.
That's
But
okay.
I might be able to, ask around and find friends who can do that for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I have friends who are studying the what we call 对外汉语.
Mm,
I don't know how to put that in English, but students who are learning this major, they're gonna end up as Chinese teacher who
yeah.
teach foreigners.
Yeah, teaching
Is it?
Chinese as a foreign language. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Teaching Chinese for the term.
Yeah,
So yeah, I have friends who study that.
cool.
Yeah, but for graded readers, I don't know what kind of text you're reading now.
So the one that I have is there aren't that many, and most of them aren't so. They're not a lot of fun, and they're not so exciting and interesting. But this one that I found is the best, and it's a series called Chinese Breeze. And any students and independent learners um, will know this series, Chinese Breeze or Hanyu Feng, and
Um,
yeah, and it's supposed to be graded readers of 8 different levels, um,
oh,
and so beginners to advanced, and they began publishing them in 2007, but
hmm.
they've been published very very slowly. So um, there aren't that many different stories out there. They're very
So
slow to pub. Hmm?
there are stories, right?
They're stories, and they're based. They're kind of culturally based. They're actually
Oh,
quite funny. They're
mm,
quite humorous, and um, they're excellently um, they're very well planned, excellently laid out. It's
hmm.
just a very low percentage in terms of new words. They recycle words. They put grammar points in there, and it's just recycling of language. But it's done in a fun way. It's done in a humorous way, and it's culturally
But
yeah, culturally based. So you learn a bit
so
of the culture at the same time. Sorry?
it's very appealing. So it's very appealing to adult learners.
Yes, yeah. Because there
It's
isn't
based.
what I find is that there's a lot of materials for young learners, and they're up to university age. But actually, after that, there isn't much for adults or older. You know what I mean? Older learners.
I know.
Yeah. So these are just quite fun, and because you mentioned about your students listening and reading, they have a CD, and there's two versions. There's a slow version of the story and a fast version of the story. Well, no, a
Oh,
slow version and a normal version.
okay.
And
That VOA,
yeah.
special VOA.
And so I put
Uh,
some on my MP3 player, and then when I have some time, it's a very small book, very small books. It's very easy to take them out and listen and read, and I think that's so. I think that reading is really important, and I should also do more.
yeah. About the Chinese learning.
Mm.
I mean, because I'm Chinese, I can
Oh.
tell they're different. Of course, I would tell because I can tell the dialects. There's so many dialects in the that Chinese does not refer to one language. It refers to like 100 language that are spoken on the land of China. So, and that caused one problem.
Hmm.
Which Chinese that you're learning now? Mandarin,
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
The official. But the second question that I have right now is the spoken Chinese um, and the written Chinese. They they kind of different.
Yes, I agree. Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, the spoken English and the written English are not too different, but the spoken Chinese and the written Chinese are very, very.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying,
I do.
you find it like you're listening to the story,
Mm.
the Hanyu Fang. You're familiar with it, but in actual conversation, conversations and in actual situation, it's kind of hard to catch up
Yeah,
with the speaker,
yeah.
right?
I think that's another. We're kind of on a different subtopic here, but yes, I think another thing that's missing is authentic material. This is a big issue in terms of any kind of Chinese textbooks and so on. It's all very unnatural. It contains the language that you need to use, but perhaps not in the most natural context. So I think
Yeah,
one thing that's missing in the Chinese language classroom are the authentic materials.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anything from the TV, from the radio, would be good, but we usually don't have that.
Yeah, but you're living in Beijing. That's beneficial to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the Mandarin that the Beijing people are speaking are how do I put it? The
Standard. Yes,
the
Biaojuan.
official.
Yes.
Yeah, but what if you're visiting me in Shenzhen? People speak Mandarin a little bit differently.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, well, I'm not in control of that. I absolutely agree. I mean, in terms of teaching English, I'm not in favor of, British accent or American accent. I think you need to hear lots of different accents.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah, and it would be the same for Chinese. Because I mean, Beijing also attracts Chinese from different parts
Yeah.
of the mainland, and then you hear this
Yeah.
sound, and you're like, "Oh, what is that?"
Korean must be.
Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe they're speaking Korean, which I mean you wouldn't know.
Anyway, that's a whole other
Yeah.
topic. I did want to
I
ask,
bet.
one of my final questions is just, I
Mhm.
mean, it seems that the reading club is going very well. Do you have any plans, any new plans? Do you have any new projects that you're going to be involved with in the future?
Yeah. Now that we see the result of the experiment, we of course want to expand and spread the idea. But I'm not in the right place to talk about any business
Oh,
plan
sure.
because I'm founder of it. But I see that in the future, uh, there are at least two directions. Maybe they will be happening simultaneously at the same time using the same group of people. One is to work with public school. The public schools in China are too much focused on grammar. So the kids are struggling. They go to the grammar class in the public school and yet they fail in the test because they don't have the authentic English. They don't have English being put in a context. So the English in their head is so broken. Uh, so one of the direction that for our reading club is to work with public school that we provide the reading material, we provide teachers, Western teachers, and we make plans for them. So that's one direction. Another one is to turn it into a bigger franchise, or I don't know, just a bigger institution had, that has different schools and centers. Uh, I don't know if we have the investment, we probably push outside of the city and build more centers in other cities,
Sure.
but we don't know right now. I mean, early on, I was interviewing um, Western teachers because we were hiring, and I interviewed, I don't know, a dozen of them, and every one of them is really interested in the idea, and some of them, told me that it was the first time they heard about this program. They think it's really, strange, not strange, special, in terms of ESL centers. So, judging from that, and also with other information that I have, that this kind of ESL center, I'd rather call it something else, but let's just call it ESL center for now. That this kind of ESL center is rare. There are not many doing it right now. There are some really good one. We are not the pioneer,
Sure.
but we are in the minority
Yeah.
part of the ESL here
Sure.
in China. So we think that um, well-educated parents love this idea. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very positive about the future of my workshop, my reading club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's very refreshing. I think there's a lot of statistics to support
yeah,
reading in terms of
yeah,
expanding, vocabulary,
yeah.
and just helping students to kind of process information and to think
Hmm?
critically and so on. So
Yeah.
I think,
Is that this is the flyer that
oh,
we have just made?
okay.
Yeah. It says here. Well, we wrote the words, and I have my friends design logo.
Okay.
Um, that we said here. It's. Can you see it?
Yeah, just,
Okay,
just.
a little barely, right?
Yeah, barely.
Anyway, so
It's okay.
one of them says that we focus on thinking.
Yeah.
We don't focus on English words or pronunciation. No, we focus on thinking. And the logo. Can you see it?
I can.
Uh huh.
Yes.
What can
I
you
can see
know?
Mike's reading house.
Uh huh. And with some Chinese words, right?
Yeah. What is it?
Do you see
No.
the
麦克?
麦克
Oh, you had to. Sh- is it
屋
我?
屋子
Wu. Wu.
屋
Okay. Wu. Okay. Thank
的
you.
屋子 You see the shape of it
Yeah, it's kind of like a house, is it? Or
and
oh, a book.
and a what? Yeah. So it our name is a reading house.
Ah, I see.
The
Yeah.
book and a house.
Got it.
So that's what we believe in.
Okay. Who is Mike,
Yeah.
by the way? Who's Mike?
My friend.
Oh.
He's
There
the
is a
founder.
there is a
Yeah.
real Mike.
Yeah, there is a real Mike. I believe in him because he's a father. He wants this for his son. Um, his son Lila, 6 year old. He wants him to read, and he didn't want to have this as a business idea. He wanted to try. Well, he was looking for good English school for his son, but he couldn't find any. So he began to experiment, the whole reading idea. And over time, he began to see that this works. So it turns into a business idea.
Cool.
So I believe in him because he's a father. He's
Okay.
not doing this for money. He's doing this for his son, just like other parents.
Okay, that's interesting you say that. Somebody that I interviewed recently,
Hmm.
who works at an experimental school just newly opened in Beijing, was also
Hmm.
started by a father who was, or well, it's a couple actually, a Chinese couple who were looking for something different for their son.
Hmm.
And in the end,
Yeah.
they couldn't find it, so they decided to start their own school.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. These are the parents that we want to help.
Right.
Yeah. Um, you see, Mike, my friend, he said something that really motivates me. He said that there are so many students here in China, and there's just we don't have enough schools for them. So only maybe 10% of all the Chinese student gets to have English class, and maybe 10% of those 10% get to have good English class.
Right, yeah.
And by good English class, I don't mean like quality English class. They just English class with an actual teacher. So very few people, very few Chinese students end up being able to use English properly. Most of them end up 哑巴英语, English that you cannot use.
I see.
Yeah. So he's saying that we are not, the program, the business is not helping the top of the top. No, we are not elite um, business. We're not elite institute. We want to have the okay, not best student from the mediocre schools. We want to give them the right resource, the cheapest way, the right resource to help them learn, to give them the right method to be able to read in English, which in the future will give them more chances.
Yep.
So that's what motivates me. We
Excellent.
want to do something that makes a difference.
Well, I wish you good luck.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
thank you very much.
Mhm. Um,
Yes, do you have any final?
no, no, it's not related to the
Oh,
you. Yes, I can talk about this after this the question section is over.
yeah. So I'm going to bring this interview to an end.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Okay.
much
Okay.
and
So
speak to you soon.
thank you very much too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,